Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I'm working on some reels that Asante sent in. You may remember the one, which was the Penn Torx that needed some work, had some bad bearings and issues in it. Well, this one is a D.A.M quick, or I'm sorry, it's a quick. It's not a, yeah, it is a D.A.M quick. D.A.M quick, 3000 LH. It's a round bait caster. Santi says that sometimes the drags aren't catching, and he was good enough to give me a backup reel here, at least the gear side of it, so that I guess if we need parts, we'll see if parts are available. Well, we're going to start by removing the pieces, and that's going to enable us to do a full service of the reel, including the take apart. So if you have one of these reels, you'll see how it's serviced and how to keep it fishing for a long time to come. We'll also examine the drag washers, so you'll have a chance to see about those as well. One of the things that you'll learn is the mechanisms, how the reel drives, and well, how and when it was made. Now this one says made in China, so it's a relatively newer version of the reels. This is not a West German reel, and it's also left-handed, so if you have the right-hand version of this, well, you're going to have a couple of parts that are mirror image, but will go in opposite, or sometimes, as I like to tell my brother, everything's backwards. He's left-handed. But, well, we'll see what we can do. If you like these kinds of videos, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting, and you'll be able to see if it's a video you would like to watch. So let's get started by removing the exterior pieces. We loosened up the two on the side plate. This is a little handle nut cap that is actually worked by two little tags that go through the main handle, and I just cross my fingers every time I have to work on these that I can push that cap off without snapping those little tags. And well, we got lucky this time. When I take the pieces and parts off, I put them into a parts tray. That enables me to know where they are. When it comes time to reinstall, I won't have any trouble finding them. This is usually a 10 millimeter. Most of the bait casters, for whatever reason, have settled in on 10 millimeter handle screws and nuts. And sometimes you get the oddball that's an 11 or a 12. That's okay, keep them nearby. But this one rarely leaves the side of my desk. All right, with that handle removed, there's a little plastic washer underneath there. And then sometimes these screw off, and sometimes they just come right off. Let's find out. This is hard to see. Let's try rocking it. Well, we got the whole case off. That's always good. I want to get that little washer off there. I guess that's what's preventing me from bringing this up. This washer's kind of in there. Gets trapped in the threads, and then it becomes a wedge where you can't do anything with it. All right. Yeah, there's two flat sides on this, so I'm going to think that this can lift off now. Yeah, this is a little bit of play. It's going to take a while to get that up. So here's a trick. When you get stuck with that, just reverse your star adjuster. And this one's down quite a bit, so there may be a case where this is not does not have good drag washers in it. And just keep working it, and it will push it up and out over time. There you go. See, just it's that easy. So don't force anything when you're working on these, and you'll be in good condition. All right, let's continue with this one. For whatever reason, I need to remove the star adjuster now. These left-handed reels always get me confused because everything's backwards. There we go. There's a little pin in here. Fortunately, I caught that pin. There's a pin that's going to nest in one of these little holes here. That'll be your noise maker. And this will be your little rivet that will click against. There's a pretty wide little spacer on there. So what you want to do with these is you want to make sure that you take a picture, particularly if it's a reel that you're not familiar with. Next up, we have two Belleville washers, or convex concave washers. I'm kind of lining them up, and then we have an instant anti-reverse. You're going to notice on this instant anti-reverse that it is opposite the way that it usually would be. Usually you would have a metal side here, and this plastic or composite side here would be underneath, but that's for a right-handed reel. This is left-handed, so it reverses course. A lot of times folks will install that upside down as an error. When they make that error, well, they're in tough condition because they say, well, my reel doesn't turn. Well, of course it doesn't. The anti-reverse is preventing it from going forward. Here's a big stud on the free spool release, and here's the cavity that it will go in. So take a note as you do this. Well, what we're really concerned about here is cleaning this up, removing any debris, old greases and the like, and then inspecting the drag washers, because that apparently is where the issue is, according to Asante. So we'll see what we can do here. There's two screws that are holding the inside of this on, as best I can tell. Let's remove those. So leave them side by side. Make sure that they are the same before you go and do anything different. We should be able to push this through now. Well, we just had a little shootout here. The shootout is this quick trip mechanism, and we'll be able to figure that one out because, well, we've got a surplus one here, but I'm just looking through here right now, and that's a good thing to see. That spring with the tag is going to go on the wide side, and it's going to have a hole in the back here. So wide side, I guess it's going to clip around this little tag end here. Good to know. So we're going to set that up this way. We're going to put it back. It'll be in here. Oops. That was an oops. It'll be here, and it'll run under the tag. So it'll kind of run like this. Run like that. This tag end will be under that lip there. Okay, I'm going to remove both of those just because I don't want to lose the spring as I'm doing this service. Well, underneath, this looks like a pretty standard bait casting reel. We're going to pull the two springs. Those are compression springs for the yoke. We should just be able to remove the collar and the main gear now. That'll all slide up. We want to remove the yoke and the pinion gears. Pretty straightforward. We're going to spray down our mechanism here. Now, we don't need to remove the yoke or the trip mechanism. If we did need to, there's two screws here that is holding a center ring on that holds this whole assembly in place. So take a picture here if you're going to do anything that involves removing this. One of the things I wanted to check is, do we have a bearing? We don't. We have a bushing in the back of this. So really nothing unusual there to do. We'll put a little drop of oil from the back when we can complete this. Let's service this pinion gear. This is where I was referring to before. The metal shielded side is facing in on that anti-reverse clutch because it's a left-handed reel. For a right-handed reel, it would be facing out. Find the side on the yokes that has the ramp. That's this one here. Kind of hard to see, but there's a ramp. Doesn't lay flush. That's going to face in the reel, inside the reel. And also the slot is going to face inside. So let's kind of mount that. Get some fishing reel grease. Now, if you didn't have that side plate, if you were kind of shaken by that thing just kind of exploding out of there, you can go search for the schematic, and that should help you identify which way it is, and if it has a spring that runs high, low, etc. All right, this is the click ratchet that's going to trip with the free spool. It has a rectangle in the center, so make sure that you match that to the rectangle on the post. We have a hard washer that goes on there. And now we can take a look at these drag washers. They do appear to be a little bit worn, but they are not stuck. I think what the issue might be here is that we may have too much oil and grease on these as opposed to these things being severely worn. Just trying to fish these out of here right now. There's one more in here. It's just getting a little troublesome. You want to be careful with them. Now, and of course, we have these that are, we have a second set here in case it's needed. It was lost on the floor there for a moment. It fell off. Doing real good today. I'm showing you all the things not to do, I guess. Well, one of the things to do is keep the floor below you clean. We're going to wipe these down. I think that's probably why this is slipping. These are hard washers. They don't get oiled or greased because they're non-permeable. And what happens when you do grease these up is that they slide. So I would say that that's going to be the cause of the issue here. Things we learn. There's really three types of washers out there. There's a leather or cork kind of a washer, fabric washer. They generally get grease. There's a felt washer. They generally get oil. And then there's these non-permeable washers. Sometimes Carbon Tex is in that discussion. And well, if you have those, you do nothing. Okay, I just found, this is the third, oops, I'm doing well. There's a spring that goes on that little noisemaker. Just found that laying there, so, wow, challenging me. All right, before I put this back together again, I do want to take advantage of the fact that he's given me these parts. Somebody jammed this on, unfortunately. Hope we can get it off. I don't know, this is why I tell you, when you're doing these things, make sure they're going on square. Because if they're not going on square, this is exactly what happens. You can see how it's tilted here. And when it goes that way, you start stripping the threads. And these are not easy things to find pieces for. All right, there we go. I'm grabbing the shaft to try and get that off. This one is different. This one does not have the setup for the noisemaker, so that's not original to this reel. That's probably why it was jamming. Here's your noisemaker. Here's your Belleville washers. There's 4 on this one, and there's only 2 on the other. Curious. I'm going to keep these separate now, so I'm going to just put these up on the top here. I'm going to return these in a bag to Asante, I think. I'm not sure we need to reassemble this, particularly if we're going to wind up with the reels using these parts. Okay, so again, we can, this time around we know that thing's going to shoot. So we'll have a better understanding of how that spring goes. We'll be real careful with it to see if we can get it where it doesn't shoot. But regardless, we want to really get to this drag stack and make sure that that's what the drag stack should be. So it's funny, even within the same version, they have different little bit of different setups here. All right, I'm going to put this down, see if I can't hold that. Probably will shoot it up. Okay, and here you can see how that, there you go, there's a little pin on this one that's not on the other one, holding it in place. And that's, oh, it goes in the groove. There you go. So how do you like that? So there is a groove here. That's where that tag end is going to go. Learn all the time. I want to see what this little pin is, because apparently that other pin wasn't there. And we can probably just transfer that. Yeah, we didn't have this pin in the other one. So we're going to be 2 for 2 with that. All right, here's your main gear. That's the one we're really after here. And we have a similar setup here. So I don't think we have an issue with the drag washers per se. I think what we have is an issue with the oil on them. And there was one that seemed to be a little bit questionable, this one. So I think I'll just use the benefit of the other one in resetting that. All right, I'm going to put all these pieces over here. Turn our attention to rebuilding the reel then. We're going to take the main gear, grease that up. You don't have to get the grease in every tooth. That'll spread because the pinion gear is a different dimension than the main gear. Get enough on there that it'll be happy. Set that back in, make sure that that snaps. We have one drag washer which has got a wider hole in the center. That's the one that goes first. We have two of these washers with the rectangular center. It's called a keyed washer, but one of them has the bell on it, so that goes on the top. So the flat one goes below. Doesn't matter which one goes next. These are kind of Carbon-Tex washers. This one has two tags on it, or ears. It's called an eared washer. They face down and go into the gap or the slots in the main gear. Here's your third washer. We have the bell washer. We have the small washer. And we have the gear sleeve spacer. Okay, these are all going to come over to this side. The only thing I need to do before we reinstall then is to get this little trip back again. One of the things that was good to note was this one has that little piece in it, so always good there. All right, the tag side goes up, goes on the post, goes inside now. We just learned it goes inside that. And this is a quick flip. Seats like that. And then the pin, which wasn't in the other one, so I guess somebody may have serviced this at some point and lost the pin. I imagine it could run without that pin, but that pin belongs there just like that. Take those two yoke springs, get those on. And we can grab the case, make sure it's clean. I think this is probably an aluminum case, not quite sure. For a moment there I almost put the wrong one on, then I realized that the parts one that he gave me did not have the adjuster cap. Let's line that up. Find your slot for that quick flip. You may have to push it down just a little bit to get it to seat properly. And then make sure that your two sides that are going to accept the screws are flush. And we have the two screws going. One on each side, 180 degrees apart. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, maybe you're working on one and find yourself a little stuck. Maybe you have a question about the reel itself, where it was made, when it was made. Maybe you just have a general question. What kind of fishing do you do? What kind of reel do you recommend for that fishing? Those kinds of things. If you leave those questions in the comment section, I will try to answer those for you. Okay, this is a lefty, so let's turn it, make sure that it's turning nice and free and easy, which it is. All right, we can continue then. This one had the two bell washers. One faces up, one faces down. That's the way I install them. There's really no wrong way to install them, but that's the way I put them on. We have a flat washer on the top. Oh, that flat washer goes on the spool. I forgot that, on top of the handle. We have our noise-making shield. That goes next. Then we have this little device here. And as we found, we have a spring that's going to go in one of those holes. And we have the noise maker. So this is a little bit similar to the way that Shimano makes a click noise maker. And boy, that's not easy to get in. And then it just goes in one of those 4 holes. I guess it's the hole of your choice. We had a spacer that goes in the center on top of that shield. And now, I guess the real issue here is all about not losing that spring as you put all of this back together again. Just got to check to see which way I'm turning this. And we also want it to come in squarely. We showed you before how it was cross-threaded on that other one. I don't think that other one belongs to this reel, just because of what we've seen here. Okay, we'll just tighten this down. And we can go over to service the rest of this reel. So I made a liar out of myself. I see that little brass stud sitting right there on the spool. They generally show up. But if I didn't know what I was looking for by that other one, we would have been in trouble. All right, I'll go back in the parts tray for Asante. All right, we'll pull the spool. Sometimes easier said than done. There is no take apart there. There's looks like one spring or one screw underneath will release that. What I'm seeing here is a clean reel. I don't think we need to trouble ourselves with going inside that. If I saw an accumulation of dirt and debris and the like, certainly you would want to go in and take care of that. There is a bearing on the back side. We do want to oil that. I'll flood that with oil. There's also a bearing on the spool here that we want to oil. Use fishing reel oil, please. Don't use the general household oils and greases on fishing reels. I just got a question, what do you use for fishing reel grease? And I generally use the Penn Precision reel greases and oils. They come in an angler combination pack. They're not that expensive. You can pick them up generally in basic retailers. You can also pick it up online. One of the sources for that online is mysticparts.com. I think you can probably also find it on Amazon and other places as well. All right, let's seat that in, make sure that it's seated properly. These, I'm going to bet I have line trapped in here somewhere. Generally speaking, I don't like to work on these reels with line on them, but I understand that the customer's made an investment in braid, so I'll try to work around that. I'm going to put an elastic band on here. That should hold all of that from coming out. Try this again. And make sure that it turns. Okay. Last thing we want to address here is the pawl. We want to make sure that this gets cleaned. And if you tap down on the reel gently, you can usually have the pawl come out. This one needs a little bit of cleaning. It's got dirt on both shoulders, so we'll get rid of that. Just use a pick or something to get the old grease and dirts off of that. Clean it up with a paper towel. Now this has a plastic cap to it, so be careful on the reassembly of this, because these plastic caps can shatter if they're over tightened. That is not the proper set for the pole. It needs to lay down. So what you want to do is put pressure on that and turn your spool until you feel it in the groove. You want to move that off. There you go. Now you can see it's flush with the end of the cap. That's the way it belongs. And roll it over to the side so I can get the cap back on. And you'll notice these caps have a kind of like a rook in chest. They have spaces and little teeth that come out of them. So what you want to do is make sure that you don't break those caps or those little castles or crowns off. I see so many Shimanos with that. Broken caps because they're over tightened. Again, if you feel any tension at all in terms of being able to tighten that up, stop and go reset. Well, my mind is failing me. I'm not sure if I remember. I think I oiled that, but I didn't. Didn't know for sure, so we'll just put a little more oil on it. This is one place where too much oil won't hurt the reel. Now let's go ahead and grab the set. Figure out this part. You want to find the circular part that's going to intersect with the spool. You also need to make sure that the pivot for the trip is up, and it's going to go through that white part of plastic there. So got a couple of things we're aiming for here, but nice that you can see how that pin goes into that section. Then just work it over and make sure that you have a nice tight seal to it. You might have to adjust this this trip lever here. Push it in. Okay, now we can tighten this down. And we'll see how we did. Put the handle on. Tighten down the drags. That was the issue here. Hear the noisemaker making the noise. We're tight, and that's holding. Like our handle then. We know that that little washer that was kind of preventing us from taking the handle off goes on next. And we need the cap. Tighten that down. That's a clockwise normal tightening. I'm thinking this probably should tighten down pretty good. Take your time. Don't over tighten anything. Make sure that your drag adjuster, your star, is set all the way down. You don't want to trap that star adjuster with the handle. Flat sides facing the flat sides. That should enable us to put the cap on. One side onto the other, then it should snap in place. We're ready for a test. Let's give it a ride. Oh, that works nice and smooth. Very nice. If you want to adjust the tension on the spool, that's the tensioner. Let's push down on our free spool, make sure that we have it. That's a nice casting reel. Let's crank it, and more importantly, let's hold our finger on that spool, and we got a nice tight drag. So I think what we're going to assume on this one being what it was is that that drag washer was just loaded with greases and oils, and well, that probably was the cause of the issues here. Okay, well, that's it. That's your D.A.M. Quick 3000 LH, assuming that's left-handed. It's a power striker, I think is what the base of the reel is called. I like it a lot. I like this reel. Made in China, so we're going to assume somewhere in the early 2000s at the youngest. And maybe I need to do a little bit more research to find out what that's all about. All right, I'm going to put what I can of this reel back together again, and we'll get that one back to Asante to make sure that he has what he needs to keep that reel running for a long time to come, and have some spare parts if they come into play as well. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you do to keep us safe. To everyone, please enjoy the art of reel repair. Keep your tackle ready to go fishing. That usually means regular tune-ups. If you notice troubles like this one with the drag slipping, get in there before you damage the pieces and parts of the reel. And everybody, please have a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.